One of the hang-ups people might have in thinking about whether or not they want to start a nursery as a side hustle in their backyard, or if you wanted to turn it into more than that, is, do I really have time to do this? I want you to think about this. Now, you're going to fill your yard up with plants. You're going to have to grow them out, and how much time does all of that take? Well, I want to show you about how much time this consumes during the course of a day, during the course of a season, during the course of an entire year, and maybe it'll help you decide, do I have time to do this or not? Now, one of the things that you're going to spend time virtually every day doing, at least during the warm season, the growing season, is you have to water your plants. Now, as most of you know watching, I water all of my plants by hand and only by hand, and I use it with a simple rain wand like this one to do it with. Now, if you're going to water your plants by hand, like you see me doing here and like I do every day, you need a good rain wand to do this with. You don't need to go down to Walmart or Home Depot or Lowe's and buy that sorry piece of junk wand that they have there. Look, I'm not making fun of those wands. I'm just telling you that I've used all of them, and they are junk. They do not allow for a great water flow, a great volume of water flow like this Dram wand does. And there's a link down below in the description to this wand. It's actually in my Amazon store, and this wand is hard to beat. But if you're going to be hand watering all of your plants, you have got to figure out as efficient a way as possible to do it, or you're going to spend way too much time doing it. As I'm watering, you guys, if you've watched any of my videos, you're pretty familiar with the size of my yard and about the number of plants that I have out here in my backyard. At any given time, I may have 2,000 or 3,000 plants in my backyard, and a whole lot of those are in really small pots, and a whole lot of them are in trade gallon pots, and some bigger. But I can water everything I have, several thousand pots. I can hand water these, and it takes me, yes, I've timed it, I know that's kind of weird, but it takes me between 17 and 20 minutes to water all of these plants each morning. So I just come out first thing in the morning every day and water everything I have, and I don't water them anymore that day. And watering is the single nursery chore that's going to take up more time over the long term than anything else. So you need to be able to get as efficient as you can in watering, but just to have some kind of number in your mind for how much time this is going to take you to do this in a nursery the size of mine, 20 minutes a day, really less than that. But if your nursery's smaller, 10 minutes a day. If your nursery's bigger, more than that. If you want to automate your watering, you don't have to spend any time doing it. But as far as the way that I do it, watering by hand, this is how long it takes. It's what works for me, and it's very predictable. It's going to take me about 20 minutes to do this every day. And what I want to spend our time on this video today is showing you the things that take time all the time. So you always have to water. A second thing is that you're going to always have to do some level of weeding. Now, this is just a small 3.5-inch pot that has an emerald green arborvitae in it. But what do you see in there with that arborvitae? Of course, there's a weed. So when you come out and water, sometimes that's a good time to pay attention to your plants and see how many weeds there are in your plants. So just kind of keeping an eye on things. Just these plants right here that are sitting beside me, you know, there's always weeds to pull. It's a good idea, like with any living thing that you ever might raise or grow, you know, as a farm product, livestock, whatever, that you just kind of go and check on your cows every day, if that makes sense. With a nursery, it's the same thing. You go check on your plants every day and just kind of see how things look, see how they're growing, check on the weeds and that sort of thing. So I guess what I'm saying is you need to figure some amount of time in for weeding. You don't weed every day. There's always weeds to pull somewhere, and you need to stay on top of your weeding. Don't just wait and wait and wait, because you will get overran with weeds. But that's why we use things like this ground cloth, and you can use a pre-emergent in your pots to help with weeds, and maybe use mulch in your beds if you're growing things in the ground for a weed suppressant. But staying on top of your weeding is going to always be a thing. But it certainly doesn't take a lot of time every day, but it will take some time occasionally. Another thing you're going to spend time on in your nursery, and it's not daily and it's not even weekly, but I'll just say that regularly, you're going to be potting plants in your nursery. Now, this is one of the things that I really love doing in the nursery. It just feels like a really productive thing to do, but I grow a lot of my plants in these 3.5-inch pots. And when I say grow them, just depending on what kind of plant it is and what size the plant is when I get it. Well, these hostas were little tiny bare root hostas when I got them back in the spring, so I put them in these little 3.5-inch pots instead of these trade gallon pots. This is what this is going to end up in, and I need to pot this in here soon, but I do a lot of this. I pot them in here first and let them grow, and I do that just to save space. There's probably, in this space here, there's probably 400 hostas right here in this space in these little 3.5-inch pots. But if I put those in a trade gallon pot, they would take up 4 or 5 times that much space. Well, I just don't have the space for that. So what I will do is during the season, things are selling, and when things are selling, that's always freeing up some more space. Along the way as we go, then I'll take these and pot them up in here, and you're just kind of always potting. At least that's the way that I do my nursery. Yes, I could have taken this and put it straight into this pot when I first got this little plant, but this would have been wasting space in my nursery for an entire growing season that I didn't need it to do that, when it could have done the same thing in this pot. So you're going to spend a lot of time potting plants, but you may only do this once or twice a month in a small nursery, where you may spend an hour or 2 or 3 hours here or there doing that. So consider taking the time to pot your plants. Now, out here in my backyard also, there are several different wooden structures with shade on them that I have built, from this one that's kind of tall. This was actually the very first one I built, to over this way where I'm standing, kind of this one that I'm leaning on with my left hand, your right. It's very rudimentary, just some very small lumber built together. Over here I have this taller shade structure. We affectionately call this the shade house. But what I want you to understand is, you know, you might think, well, I don't have time to build all that. I don't have time to do all that. First of all, you don't have to build it, but you certainly don't have to build it in a weekend. I've been doing backyard nursery for 5 years, and when I started, I didn't have anything out here. This was all just grass in all my backyard. So just over time, as we had more plants, we let our plants pay for all of this stuff that we built out here. And our ground cover, we didn't just throw this out here in a day or in a weekend. I mean, it took us a long time to put all of this out here, because we just grew slowly year by year by year. So what I want you to see is that don't worry about the finished product. Just kind of worry about the step-by-step, day-by-day process of how you get there, because that's what's more important in you understanding if you can do this or not, if you have time to do this or not. It's more important to look at the small chunks, the day-by-day things, than the big picture, because the reality is, if I think about this, during the course of an entire 365-day year, I probably average 1 hour a day out here over the course of a year. It's not very much. It might be less than that. And most people, if they're into plants, if they're looking for a side hustle, if they want to find a way to make some extra money and grow some plants, maybe you just want to do it because you think it's fun, chances are you can find time in your schedule to make it happen. Another thing that's going to take some time with your nursery, obviously, is having your plant sales. And this is really where you want to be, is you got enough plants that you can actually start selling them. And the way that we do that in our nursery is we sell them out of our driveway like a yard sale. And we typically do that about 3 times a year in the spring. And we usually schedule those 9 a.m. until noon or something like that. That may vary a little bit depending on how many plants we have. We sell plants that look just about like that. This is a Rheingold arborvitae shrub. But in the spring, look, if you're going to have plants, it would stand to reason that you're going to have some time to sell them. So even on our sales day, though, they don't occupy our whole day. They don't take a whole lot of time. And other than that, you're going to spend some time online looking for nursery supplies and advertising individual plants that you may have for sale from time to time. I sell a lot that way. But besides that, there aren't a lot of things in your nursery that occupy a lot of your time. These are living things, so they do need attention, but they don't need constant attention. And that's one of the reasons why backyard nursery is a great, great side hustle. So whether or not you have time to do a nursery in your backyard or in whatever small space you have may not really even be the issue. Yep, it's going to take you some time to do it, but it's not going to completely consume your life. In fact, it's not going to take your life over at all. So don't let that be the reason why you don't get started. I appreciate y'all watching today. I love y'all, and I'll see you on the next one.